Barbara Gladstone, whatever she liked, she actually liked. What she cared about, she actually cared about. Many of the artists that she championed were not artists that many people liked. You know, she liked things before other people appreciated them. And there were never many people like Barbara Gladstone, and there never will be.
I think for me the most challenging time was the early years because I was making myself up as I went along. I was inventing myself in a way. I had no model. I had never worked in a gallery. I had to learn on my feet.
In the 1970s, the New York art world was called the New York art world, and now it's called the art market, okay? The difference between market and world is gigantic. In the 1970s, the entire New York art world fit in one restaurant, Max's Kansas City. I saw Andy Warhol probably 5 nights a week for years, never by daylight or design. Not because I was friends with him, which I was not because I liked him, which I did not, but because we went to the same places. That creates an environment.
Barbara was a visionary art dealer.
Just such an icon, really a force, trailblazer, pioneer.
She didn't set out to be a gallerist. She was an art history professor and mother of 3 sons living on Long Island. In the 1970s, she began collecting prints. By 1980, at age 40, she decided to open her own gallery.
There weren't many upper middle class women who worked outside the home at all. It was unusual, it was rare. The upside of that is if you were doing it, no one paid attention to you. If she was competing with men, she would not have been able to do it because they stopped you. At the time, they probably just paid attention. And so that enabled her to, kind of like come in the back.
So she started somewhat modestly. People would find her and they would understand that they were speaking to a highly intelligent person. This wasn't a nice thing for suburban women to do. It was a deep and abiding passion.
Quietly, defiantly, she began changing the game. And what she built, Gladstone Gallery, it really became one of the most respected and important galleries in the world.
I think we represent artists the way artists have always been represented individually. I'm talking to the artist. That's what I want to do. It's still a very personal connection that we have, and that I would not ever want to change.
She wasn't following trends. She set the trends.
The part of Chelsea where the galleries are, basically, it was bus garages.
She anchored herself in Chelsea long before the rest of the world followed.
She was interested in what's new. What's new is not what's new now, it's what's going to be new, okay?
The word fearless is thrown around a lot in contemporary art, but Barbara Gladstone truly was fearless towards the start of her career. She was taking works that were challenging, that were subversive, and presenting them to market for what they were.
She had extraordinary intuition about people before they even understood themselves. She loved young ideas.
She's showing this wide array of artists.
Keith Haring, Robert Mapplethorpe, Robert Rauschenberg, Anish Kapoor, Richard Prince, Matthew Barney,
who together are all collectively artists who are kind of advancing the narrative of contemporary art in a truly meaningful way.
She gave people enormous permission. I never saw her say no to an artist because something was either unsaleable or too costly to make. She prided herself on being a partner.
I have always been fascinated to observe that artists should be the ones who are holding a mirror up to our culture and showing us so that we learn about ourselves from artists, I believe.
Stepping into Barbara Gladstone's Chelsea townhouse is like reading her life in chapters.
There was a rigor to it all. There wasn't much that was decorative. It was pretty tough, commanding. And I think her elegance and her eye, and I know taste is a bad word, but I mean it as a kind of refined aesthetic, was visible in the sweep of her collection, in the singularity of the works she saved or bought for herself.
There's Man Crazy Nurse by Richard Prince, the pioneer of photographic appropriation.
Richard was one of the artists she discovered very early on in his career. Much of the art that thrilled her was difficult. It was visually robust, but conceptually rigorous. And Richard was the definition of that.
The Embroidered Senza Titolo by Boetti, a remarkable piece balancing dualities of order and chaos. Andy Warhol's Black Flowers, devoid of the usual pop color palette, rendered instead in dark, haunting introspection. My favorites is Elizabeth Peyton's What Wondrous Things Do I See? Soft, luminous, impossibly intimate, it captures the fleeting beauty of a moment while radiating an elegance that transcends to the canvas.
There was always something revealing about the artists, about their connections to each other, and about this breath that was Barbara.
Barbara Gladstone's impact is indelible. The contemporary art world is this cacophony of voices, and it takes a lot for one to cut through, not because it shouts, but because it has a clarity and a singularity of purpose that distinguishes it.
She really was a role model for young women in this business.
I so revered this generation of female gallerists who forged a path and really had the best programs of any gallery in New York. They really helped shape what we know to be the art of our time.
She wanted to be remembered through her artists. Their success was her reward. She developed her vision every day. I don't think it ever was finished.
There are still beautiful secrets to be discovered. You don't know which ones will last. Time alone is the judge.